Bryan had been experiencing a number of symptoms, great amount of fatigue, and what we now know to be seizures. And it took a number of months to figure out. And in April of 1998, Bryan was diagnosed with a tumor. He had a brain biopsy in May of that year because the tumor's too deep and too near his brainstem, so they can't operate on it. So they did a biopsy and diagnosed a grade 2 oligodendroglioma.
They felt the best course of treatment was radiation and not going further than that at this point, and we've been fortunate. It's been 9 years. The tumor has not come back and has not come back and grown any at all. And we've had other side effects, headaches and seizures at times, but for the most part, we've been very fortunate in that 9 years of pretty decent health.
When Bryan was first diagnosed, I gathered as much information as I possibly could and was very, very grateful to the American Brain Tumor Association and other organizations that were able to provide us the resource materials that helped educate us. So we moved to Minnesota in the fall of 2001, and at that time, Bryan became a full-time stay-at-home dad, and I went back to work.
But the kids, they're still at that age. Jake's 9 and Jordan's 7. So every once in a while, something funny will come out, a good story will come out of conversation that we'll have. Not so long ago, we were sitting around and the kids were kind of talking to me about, Dad, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm thinking, I'm sitting here making them breakfast thinking, this is it, man. It's not going to get any better than this. And I'm like, and they get serious about it too. I mean, they'll look at you as serious as all get out about, Dad, don't you want to be something when you grow up? And I'm like, well, I'm still working on it,
I'm Sammi Ericksen. I am a brain tumor survivor, and I'm going to be a sophomore next year at Eden Prairie High School, and I was diagnosed when I was 4 years old.
The diagnosis, I can tell you this now, was not good. The tumor, the cyst in the tumor, was the size of a golf ball. And your brainstem is about the size of my thumb, and just could not believe she was functioning. And what the doctor said was, if this was in an adult, you'd be dead.
She's weaker on her right-hand side. Certain things she couldn't do very well right off the bat.
I couldn't hop on my right leg. But
how'd you learn to hop on your right leg?
Because I danced, and so that built up my strength, and that really helped me.
The doctors wanted her to go through physical therapy. She wanted to participate in dance, so we signed up for dance class, and I remember at the recital, I'm watching her hop on her right-hand foot. I'm like, oh my gosh, dance is good therapy for her.
There have been some funny times. I mean, once Sam realized what she had, she used to call it the stupid tumor. So we let her call it the stupid tumor, my stupid tumor. So
that was the only time I was allowed to say stupid. It was only if it was like, oh, my stupid brain tumor.
And then after a certain period of time where the tumor really wasn't doing anything and it was still just there but wasn't causing any problems, you start getting very hopeful, thinking, well, obviously the 6-month mark didn't mean anything, so all bets are off. We're going forward, and she's going to be here forever. That was our new master plan for her.
I feel like I've gotten stronger because I feel like, oh, I've gotten through that, then I can get through more things because I've survived a brain tumor. Never give up, to keep pushing through it, because there always is hope.
Looking back, I can tell that God was with me all the time. When I was a little girl, my dad was in the hospital, and it took them 6 months to diagnose him as having a brain tumor. He died about 3 years later. I was diagnosed in 1994. I had a seizure 6 weeks after our honeymoon. The kind of tumor I had, I was very fortunate because it was slow growing, and however, it didn't have any cure, if you will. And that's where my faith started to come back. Because I started living every day as, this is a blessing. This is truly a blessing. I found out that brain tumors change over time. And about 3-4 years later, it started growing again. So I started out with oligodendroglioma, and then by this time I got down to Mayo for my diagnosis, it was oligodendra mixed astrocytoma. So that means it's a faster growing tumor. I always imagined myself working, and that's all I did. It took me probably a good 2 years to actually say, wow, I'm not able to work right now. And being able to stay home with my kids has been just a miracle in itself. I pray for some shrinkage, and that way I'll be able to stay on the chemotherapy a little bit longer. It's going to be a fight, but I always say, God, I can do anything through God who strengthens me.
The day that your child is diagnosed, you're basically handed a death sentence, and it's 9 to 12 months. The winter leading up to Maddie's diagnosis, she was having some intermittent headaches accompanied by some nausea, and it wasn't until the headaches became very consistent and persistent and the nausea became daily that we finally went again to the pediatrician, and we came to find out that same day that it's considered the deadliest pediatric brain tumor that a child can be diagnosed with.
This diagnosis was one of the best and worst things that could have happened to our family. Every single day, we cherished the time that we had together, and it brought us that much closer together, and people were drawn to Maddie and to our parties, and it was because she was so positive throughout the entire thing, and she had so much fun. She was positive, and she was funny, and she was a little naughty, and one of Maddie's favorite things to do was to make prank phone calls. People we knew.
Like our grandparents.
Yeah,
Right.
our Filipino grandparents. And then she would giggle and hang up. Maddie, one of her philosophies was that she was going to find a cure, and the prognosis was good or better. Good if she was cured here on Earth, or better if she got to experience whatever happens after. Maddie really reached out to a lot of people too. She would put together little care packages, and she was an artist, so she would paint children or paint things or make things, and she would send them to other kids and families that were dealing with some sort of cancer or had passed away.
Her feelings and her thoughts, they were always so positive. She was so happy, she was so content, she was so sure of where she was going. She was so grateful for where she had been, and as a mother, I couldn't have been given any better gift.
I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I looked deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. Like tomorrow was a gift, and you got eternity to think about what you do with it. What did you do with it? What did I do with it? What would I do with it? Skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain.